Under the gentle moonlight, night descended on the coastal city, blanketing the rooftops and coconut trees in a mystical deep blue hue. Warm light radiated from the buildings, illuminating the path where Shirone and Rian walked side by side. A gentle sea breeze carried the scent of salt and the rustling of palm leaves. Breaking the peaceful silence, Rian turned to his close friend. "Hey, Shirone," Rian began, his voice full of concern. "Is this your first time? I mean, your first fight with Amy. Were you hurt by what she said?" Shirone stopped, a flicker of surprise crossing his face at Rian's question. The words were like a key, unlocking a stream of memories he had tried to seal away. Amy's image surfaced, her words about orphans with no family echoing in his mind. Immediately following was the scene of Vincent, his father, bowing deeply, earnestly begging Rian's parents to adopt him. And then Vincent's pained face appeared, shouting the bitter truth that Shirone was not his biological son. The whirlwind of memories passed quickly, leaving a mess in Shirone's heart. He lowered his head, then looked back at his friend, a warm feeling creeping into his heart. "Rian, sometimes he's really thoughtful." Shirone took a deep breath, trying to sort out his thoughts. "I won't deny that it's something that's been on my mind lately, but it's not like I was hurt by what Amy said or anything. And it wasn't even a fight," he explained slowly, his eyes slightly downcast. "It's just—"
Under the clear night sky, Shirone explained thoughtfully, with a slightly troubled expression. "I just wish Amy wouldn't act like that, and it's pretty normal for you two to have different opinions." Before she could finish, Ron interrupted, his voice full of annoyance. "That's exactly what arguing is, you idiot!" Called an idiot, Shirone was stunned, a strange sense of embarrassment rising within her. They stopped on a cobblestone path, looking down at the town illuminated by vibrant lanterns. Ron crossed his arms and declared, "All right, I'm going to buy some meat. Let's part ways here. Look forward to it." With that, he turned back with a mischievous grin. "I'm going to make you wash dishes with Amy, so you better make up with her." Left alone, Shirone could only force a smile, her forehead dotted with sweat. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Amy was irritably explaining to Elzine, her face flushed. "We weren't arguing, and it wasn't a lover's quarrel either. It's pretty normal for people to have opposing views." Elzine just smiled knowingly, teasing gently. "Oh my, what do they say about strong denials? They are strong confirmations, aren't they?"
In the spacious kitchen, the clatter of dishes echoed softly as Amy and Elzine cleaned up together. Though her hands were busy, Amy's mind was cluttered with frustrating thoughts, causing her to click her tongue unconsciously. Noticing her friend's unusual silence, Elzine turned, her eyes full of concern. "You're upset, aren't you? Shirone didn't take your side against those thugs? If it were me, I'd be really annoyed." Amy remained silent, her vibrant red hair swaying slightly as she bowed her head, seemingly lost in her own thoughts. After a moment, she spoke slowly, her voice carrying a nuance more complex than mere anger. "You know, Shirone can be so ambiguous sometimes." Elzine was a little surprised by Amy's choice of words. "Ambiguous? Is that some kind of euphemism?" Amy didn't answer the question. Her gaze became distant, filled with a vague but deep-seated anxiety. "Sometimes she's so ambiguous that I feel like she could disappear from my sight at any moment." Amy's sudden confession struck Elzine like a bolt of lightning. "Is that true?" Elzine's astonished shout echoed, as if tearing through the quiet night outside the window, where a magnificent mansion stood alone and precariously on a treacherous cliff.
In the cozy kitchen, Elzine suddenly shouted, her green eyes wide with horror. "An intruder almost killed everyone at the Magic Academy?" "Yes." Immediately, Amy Carmus reached out and covered her friend's mouth, her face clearly tense. "Shh! I told you this was a secret." Elzine brushed Amy's hand away, her voice still trembling with excitement. "But this is such a shocking story, and not only that, Shirone is a key opener, and he sacrificed himself to save everyone." For a moment, Elzine's mind drifted to the image of Shirone, his whole being bathed in a brilliant aura, head held high as he accepted his fate amidst streaks of mystical blue and gold light. Amy's voice echoed, somber and solemn, like a narration for that magnificent scene. For a key opener, unlocking the immortal function is like leaving this world. Some people call it nirvana, but I don't know much about it. And Shirone's return is essentially like a dead man walking out of his own grave. It really is a miracle. The atmosphere in the room became heavy. Elzine lowered her head in silence, trying to digest the unbelievable truth. After a while, Amy looked at her, her eyes complex. "Teus, You have a lot of friends at school, right? Amy suddenly asked, her serious tone causing Elzine to look up, a look of surprise on her face. Right?
In the neatly organized kitchen, where stacks of blue-patterned china plates were neatly arranged on the shelves, Amy's voice resonated steadily, filled with contemplation. Some people are close friends. Some are jealous or even hate you. And there are probably many other trainees you've never even met. She paused, her gaze distant, a bead of sweat trickling down her temple. Her eyes drilled into the emptiness, haunted as she continued, the question seemingly not directed at anyone in particular, but at the anxieties within her own heart. Do you think you've done it, thrown yourself into the eternal infinity, not just to save your closest friends, but also complete strangers? Meanwhile, in a bustling night market illuminated by rows of warm lanterns, Shirone accepted a basket of fresh vegetables from the vendor. "Thank you." He carried the heavy basket of vegetables, the other hand holding a piece of paper, muttering to himself. Next is... Suddenly, an unpleasant odor assaulted his nose, causing Shirone to wrinkle his face and raise his hand to cover it. "What's that smell?" Just then, a man sitting nearby spoke up. "Hey kid, if I were you, I'd hold my nose."
Beneath the brilliant lanterns of the night market, an elderly man with a weary expression said to Shirone in a low voice, "That's Loop." Shirone, still carrying a basket of vegetables, asked in surprise, "Loop? You mean—" "Yes," the man confirmed, his eyes distant. "Once you're addicted, there's no turning back. This island used to be a very nice place until 3 years ago, but then, suddenly, the number of troublemakers began to increase." As Shirone looked around, he noticed a man with a crazed look in his eyes being fed something by another person right in the middle of the crowd. The scene was disturbing. The man continued his story with a regretful tone. "Before that, the air and seawater here were very clean. Even the azure dragon visited us 2 or 3 times a year. I don't understand how things got to this state." The memories of happy families and peaceful streets seemed to contrast bitterly with the flashy casino and the unfamiliar faces gathering nearby. Shirone walked away silently, his heart heavy with the man's words. His gaze suddenly stopped at a hidden corner. 2 raggedly dressed children were sitting on the ground. One, with a gleeful expression, was frantically grabbing a piece of cake from the other, who had a strange smeared smile on their face. The tragic sight was etched into Shirone's mind. He stopped, closed his eyes tightly, a resolute determination etched on his delicate face.
In the cozy room, Amy, her red hair pulled back neatly, wiped her hands on her apron and began a thoughtful conversation. She turned to Elzine, her blonde friend, who was listening intently. "Hey, they say there are 3 perspectives in this world," Amy said, her voice contemplative. Elzine, slightly surprised, repeated questioningly, "3 perspectives?" "That's right," Amy confirmed, her gaze becoming distant. "First, there's the perspective of a child. Whoever they are, as children, they can only see the world from their own self-centered point of view." An image flashed in her mind, a scene of young people shouting, squabbling, only aware of themselves in a chaotic crowd under the night sky. "Some people never escape that perspective," Amy continued, her voice tinged with philosophy. "But most people grow up and can understand the perspectives of others." The scene changed again, revealing 2 gaunt, ragged children huddled on the cold stone floor, tears welling up in their eyes. A hand reached out to give them a warm loaf of bread. "We call people who have successfully grown in that way virtuous." Elzine seemed to understand, nodding in agreement. "I guess that's the perspective of an adult." "Yes," Amy agreed, but then a sharp glint appeared in her eyes. "And above that, there's a 3rd perspective." "There's more?" Elzine's eyes widened in surprise. Amy's bright blue eyes shone with determination. "It's the perspective that allows you to see things invisible to the eye." Her words seemed to transport the listener to an ancient street illuminated by vibrant lanterns at night. A young man with golden hair stood alone, looking up at the starry night sky, carrying a basket in his hand. Justice, love, good and evil. Amy's voice echoed like a whisper, the concept of a god and the impact of one generation on the next.
Lost in a stream of thought, Amy's voice resonated deep and contemplative. And because they understand the value of the invisible, the things that cannot be seen with the naked eye. In her mind, images flashed like an old film reel. Shirone's face contorted in unbearable pain, his scream tearing through the night against the menacing figure of Arcane, the one who had sown terror. You're just feeling regret, aren't you?" The dark mage's taunt still echoed. The memory shifted to another moment when Shirone held her tight, her eyes brimming with fear, and then the image of thousands of figures throwing themselves into a blinding abyss, willing to bet their lives on the line. They are willing to wager their very lives on the line for what they believe in. Shirone's bright blue eyes reflected a universe of contemplation. Amy suddenly realized something deeper. I'm sure that from Shirone's perspective, the value of everything in this world would seem equal. The scene that appeared was Shirone standing in the middle of a nighttime street, looking up at the sky, the city lights twinkling like distant stars. In that moment, it seemed that every object, every living thing possessed an equal beauty and value in his eyes. Amy's thoughts pulled her back to reality. Shirone stood before her, his hand gently holding her wrist. He lowered his head, his blonde hair falling slightly, obscuring the expression on his face. Amy looked at him, a warm and complex feeling welling up inside her. And perhaps even me.
For a fleeting moment, Amy's radiant smile flashed in Shirone's mind, her gentle voice seeming to echo in his ears. Maybe it's just a small speck of dust when viewed from a higher place. However, his train of thought was suddenly interrupted. Elzine's blue eyes widened, filled with horror and astonishment. "Ah, help! Someone help me!" A piercing scream tore through the lively atmosphere of the night market. Shirone startled and spun around. He hurriedly looked down from the balcony and another desperate cry echoed. Below in the narrow alley, a gang of thugs was surrounding a young girl. They grabbed her arms, their faces menacing. One of them growled, "What's wrong? I told you we're doing you a favor because you don't have any money. We're letting you pay with your body. You should be grateful that we're being so kind." The group erupted in a vile laughter, their voices blending with the girl's utter fear. Just then a cold, stern voice rang out, cutting through the chaos. "Stop!" Shirone was already standing in the middle of the square, the bright lantern light illuminating his steadfast figure. The crowd parted, silently watching. He calmly carried 2 baskets of bright red apples, his unwavering gaze fixed on the thugs as he commanded, "Let her go." The group was stunned. The leader glanced around, seeing dozens of eyes focused on them, and he whispered anxiously, "There are a lot of people watching."
In the middle of the bustling night market, a man with a leering grin leaned close to the ear of a scowling individual, his voice laced with menace. "Or I'll call security." Hearing this, the red-scarfed ringleader burst into arrogant laughter. "Ha ha ha! You're gonna call security to deal with us?" His henchmen joined in, one challenging, "Great, why don't you call 'em over here now? You think security'll catch us or this old woman?" Just then, Shirone stepped forward, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the aggression of the group. A woman with a panicked expression hurriedly hid behind him, her trembling hand gripping his coat as if searching for an anchor. Shirone's gaze sharpened and he coldly asked, "What did you just say?" The ringleader sneered, acting as if he held all the cards. "I'm a merchant in this area. That woman was caught stealing a 50 silver vase, and then she broke it too. I said I'd let it slide if she paid up, but she said she didn't have any. So instead of reporting it, I'm giving her a chance to pay her debt. Do you understand now?" The woman behind Shirone looked even more horrified upon hearing those words. The crowd began to whisper and murmur around them, forming a curious circle. The merchant glanced at Shirone's attire and then said in a condescending tone, "Judging from your appearance, you're probably just a young master visiting the area. Why don't you mind your own business and get out of here?"
Under the warm glow of the neighborhood's lanterns at night, Shirone calmly asked the woman trembling beside him, "Why didn't you turn yourself in?" The terrified girl clutched a sleeve, frantically replying, "I can't. He practically rules this whole area. It's useless. Please believe me." Shirone was silent for a moment, his blue eyes showing a hint of contemplation as he assessed the situation. Immediately after, he decisively stepped forward, shielding the girl as a group of menacing-looking men blocked their path. Facing the ringleader wearing a red turban, Shirone extended his hand, his voice firm. "I'll pay for her, so please let her go." A hideous and savage laugh rang out. The leader and his cronies burst into uproarious laughter. After they had their fill, the leader sneered at Shirone contemptuously. "Oh, now I get it. You're chasing after this woman, aren't you? I guess you have to. Where else can you seduce a woman with only 50 silver? The surrounding crowd also began to murmur, laugh, and point at the two of them. In the face of the mockery, Shirone merely lowered his head slightly, a nearly imperceptible smile flitting across his lips. He looked up, his tone still calm, but with an underlying steely edge. "It's not like that. I'm just trying to prevent this from getting worse." The smiles on the thugs' faces vanished, replaced by expressions of aggression and intimidation as they slowly tightened their circle.
Amidst the bustling street, under the warm glow of the night market's lanterns, Shirone calmly faced the red-turbaned man.
Behind him, a girl cowered in fear, while another hooded woman silently observed from within the crowd. Shirone's voice rang out clear and sharp, cutting through the surrounding noise. She committed a crime worth 50 silver coins, and you told her you wanted to be compensated for it. I'm willing to spend 50 silver coins to prevent a bigger problem from happening. Unless you are plotting something against this woman, please take this money and end everything here. He extended his palm, upon which lay gleaming silver coins. The man stared at the money, then looked up, his face darkening. Rage ignited in his eyes, a malicious thought flashing through his mind. How dare this brat touch my prey? Despite the surging killing intent emanating from his opponent, Shirone remained motionless. His face showed no change. Only his clear blue eyes gleamed with a cold, unwavering light.